Okay, let's unpack this. We're about to take a deep dive into, well, what seems like a pretty specific topic at first glance, Indonesia's e-commerce market.
Right.
But the sources you've shared, they show it's actually a really crucial way to understand something much bigger and, frankly, quite surprising.
Hmm.
We always hear about the huge scale and innovation of China's tech giants, Alibaba, ByteDance, those names. They dominate domestically.
Absolutely.
Yet these sources paint this picture of them hitting some, well, serious and unexpected bumps when they try to take that success overseas, especially in a place like Indonesia, which is just booming.
Yeah, it's a fascinating contrast.
We've got this stack of articles and reports right here laying out their strategies, their stumbles, and the local companies who are pushing back. Not just resisting, but really innovating.
They really are.
So our mission here is to cut through all that, pull out the key insights, and figure out why Indonesia is so important for China's tech plans, where they've actually succeeded, and maybe most interestingly, why they've struggled. And we'll see how this whole thing kind of echoes tech history.
It really does.
Before we jump in, what was your first take on that core tension the sources bring up, these massive global companies hitting such strong local resistance?
Well, it's exactly that contradiction that's so striking. You've got companies with, almost unbelievable resources and success back home,
Right.
but these sources show they are definitely not finding it easy overseas. It's this dynamic struggle, and it really does have parallels to business history. It shows it's never just about having the most money.
Mm-hmm.
It's about adapting, understanding the culture, knowing the local ground, and getting the so what behind the market share headlines. That's what these sources help us do. It's crucial context.
Okay, let's dive into that local ground then. The sources really emphasize Indonesia right now. They call it China's most watched overseas market. Why? What makes it so hot?
Well, there are several really compelling reasons laid out. First, just the scale. Huge population, 2.7 billion people.
Wow.
But it's not just the number, it's the demographics. Half the population is under 30.
Half under 30.
Yeah. One source uses this great phrase, calls it a miracle country, because it's deep in a population bonus period. Basically, a massive, young, dynamic group of workers and consumers. It's ripe for growth.
Population bonus period, that really paints a picture. So young, lots of people. What else?
Okay, add to that, they're very connected. Smartphone penetration is high, like 65%. The source even notes that's a bit higher than Japan.
Higher than Japan, okay.
So people are online, they have the phones, but, and this is where it gets really interesting for these tech companies, traditional banking is surprisingly low. Bank account penetration for people 15 and over is only around 48.9%.
Ah, okay. So lots of smartphones, people are connected, but not many bank accounts, low credit card use. That sounds like a perfect storm. Or maybe a perfect opportunity,
Exactly.
like a ready-made garden for mobile payments and e-commerce that can just leapfrog the old financial systems.
Precisely. The sources really hammer this home. This wasn't just a problem, it actually paved the way for some really unique local solutions we'll get to. Plus, you've got rising incomes, average monthly income around, what, 25,000 Japanese yen? Maybe 160 USD, roughly.
Right.
But the trend is upwards.
Right.
And there's an undersupply of quality local goods, creating a natural pull for products, often from China, to fill that gap.
Yeah, you can totally see why everyone would be looking there. But then the sources switch gears to something pretty surprising. Despite all that domestic strength, Chinese tech firms often struggle overseas. They use the term Galapagos.
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? You'd think with their scale, they just roll over everyone.
Huh.
But the sources show very few Chinese tech services have really gone global successfully outside China itself. Most are built for the very specific Chinese digital world.
Are there exceptions they mention?
Well, the big one is TikTok, obviously. But even there, the sources point out it was a conscious strategy to split it, Douyin for China, TikTok for everywhere else. A lot of early users didn't even know it was Chinese.
Oh, interesting.
And some mobile games do well globally, often through international app stores, maybe masking their origin a bit too.
But the struggles.
Yeah, look at bike sharing like a
Sure.
Buffo. They tried, then pulled back. Partly internal stuff, sure. Ride-sharing giant Didi in Japan. Regulations basically neutered their main business model, leaving them mostly with just taxi dispatch.
Right.
Even Alipay, its global path has been more indirect, providing tech to partners like Paytm in India or PayPay in Japan, not like a direct Alipay everywhere. These examples really highlight that Galapagos idea.
Okay, so they have this trouble adapting outside China. Given that, Why the big push into places like Southeast Asia now? What's the driver?
It comes back to those demographics you mentioned earlier. The sources are pretty clear. China's own population bonus period, that engine of growth from young people, that's over.
Ah.
China's now in what they call an onus period. The younger group is shrinking. So if these huge companies only rely on the home market, growth just naturally slows down. It has to.
So they have to look elsewhere to keep growing.
Absolutely. And Southeast Asia is kind of the natural first step. The sources point out a few reasons. Large ethnic Chinese populations, the Huaren, across the region, which helps bridge cultures a bit.
Okay.
There's also quite a bit of cultural overlap in how people shop and use digital stuff. And crucially, Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, is having its own population bonus period right now. It offers that vibrant, growing market China's companies need.
Okay, that makes total sense. Domestic factors pushing them out, regional factors pulling them in. Let's zoom in on Alibaba's play in Southeast Asia. Their big move, the sources say, was buying Lazada back in 2016.
Right, an established player across the region.
And the sources also mentioned the bigger rivalry, right? Alibaba also invested in Tokopedia with SoftBank, while Tencent backed Shopee. The whole China tech battle just moved offshore.
Yeah, that rivalry is definitely a constant theme. But focusing on Lazada, its origin story is pretty interesting, according to the sources. Founded in 2012 by these German guys, the Samwer brothers from Rocket Internet.
Rocket Internet, I remember them.
Yeah, their whole model was basically find a successful U.S. tech idea. Lazada was an Amazon copy and quickly launched clones in other markets before the original got there. Kind of aggressive.
You know, I can see why Jack Ma might have liked that. It's a
Right.
bit like a guerrilla story taking on the big guys, kind of like Alibaba versus eBay and Amazon back in China.
The sources definitely speculate he saw a connection there. Now, Lazada started as an online retail model, like Amazon, holding inventory, managing logistics.
Right.
Alibaba, though, is mostly an intermediary, like Taobao, a marketplace connecting buyers and sellers. So Alibaba's plan was kind of layered. Use Lazada's existing setup, maybe better for Asia's early logistics, but integrate Alibaba's tech cloud, payments, their Cainiao logistics network.
And they were serious about it. The sources mentioned Jack Ma's goal from 2014, 50% of Alibaba's revenue from overseas in 10 years.
Huge goal.
And to lead it, they sent Peng Lei, one of the original Lohan, built Ant Group, the financial empress, sending her as Lazada CEO. That shows how important this was.
Massive signal, sending someone of that stature. But the sources detail some major hurdles she hit, especially a big culture clash inside Lazada.
What happened there?
Well, the sources describe Lazada's original management being mostly European, German, French from the Rocket Internet days, and their work culture was just different from Alibaba's intensity.
How so?
The Europeans valued work-life balance, wanted logical reasons for working crazy hours. Alibaba's culture, the sources paint it as this relentless drive where overtime wasn't really a concept because the work just never stopped.
Oof, I can see the clash coming.
Yeah, and Lazada had more of a startup feel, like people enjoyed the work itself. That bumped up against Alibaba's very result-focused style, all about hitting tough targets set by HQ back in Hangzhou.
The tension built up.
Big time. When Peng Lei brought in more Alibaba managers, the sources say there was a lot of resentment from the original European team, and many of them left. Mass departures.
And language was an issue, too.
Yeah, another practical problem. Lazada's official language was English, but not all the incoming Chinese staff were fluent. As more Chinese execs came in, key decisions started happening in Chinese.
Oh, boy.
Which led to communication breakdowns, more resentment. Local staff felt like HQ was looking down on them. It sounds like it got pretty messy.
Wow, that sounds incredibly tough to manage. And the sources note Peng Lei stepped down in 2018, maybe taking responsibility for how things went.
Yeah, that seems to be the read. But all that internal chaos at Lazada, it created a massive opening. And the sources really highlight how local competitors jumped on it fast and smart. Two main ones stand out, Shopee and Gojek.
Okay, let's start with Shopee. Who's behind them? What was their angle?
Shopee's founder is Forrest Lai, ethnic Chinese from Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting background, studied in Shanghai and Stanford, so he kind of gets both worlds. He first built a successful gaming company, SEA, and Shopee came out of that.
Okay, so what did they do right?
Well, the sources say Shopee brilliantly exploited Lazada's problems. They got huge funding, especially from Tencent, Alibaba's big rival, remember?
Yeah, right.
And they just went on this massive marketing blitz, billboards everywhere, influencers all over SE Asia made a ton of noise. But the killer move, strategically, they copied Pinduoduo from China.
Copied Pinduoduo. How?
Pinduoduo is famous for those super, super cheap eye-catcher products to lure people in. Shopee did exactly that in Indonesia. Sold stuff for crazy low prices. The source mentions like 99 rupiah cosmetics or toys, 999 rupiah face masks.
Wait, 99 rupiah? That's less than the US cent? 9.99 is like, what, 6 cents?
Exactly. Dirt cheap. Clearly aimed right at Indonesia's very price-sensitive but also aspirational consumers. And it worked.
You can see how that would grab attention.
Totally. There's a chart in the source material that shows it really clearly. Shopee and another local player, Tokopedia, saw huge growth, especially during COVID when e-commerce took off. Meanwhile, Lazada kind of flatlined during that key period. It really shows how Shopee's strategy, hitting Lazada while they were struggling internally, paid off big time.
The sources also mentioned Tokopedia and Bukalapak as other big local players fighting back, and Tokopedia was backed by both Alibaba and SoftBank. That's complicated.
Yeah, it's a tangled web.
But Gojek. The sources describe Gojek as something totally different, like real homegrown innovation.
Gojek is maybe the best example in these sources of how local problems can spark unique solutions. Founded in Jakarta 2010 by Nadia Makarim, why? To fix Jakarta's insane traffic jams using motorbike taxis, Ojeks.
So like Uber for motorbikes, basically.
That's how it started. But here's Gojek's unique insight, according to the sources. They realized the core idea wasn't just moving people on a bike, it was moving something by bike.
Oh.
And they just ran with it. First, package delivery. Then shopping proxy, the rider goes buy stuff for you at the store, brings it back. Then food delivery, huge. And then even service delivery, sending a massage therapist, nail tech, cleaner by motorbike to you and picking them up later.
That's amazing. From a motorbike taxi to this whole on-demand world built around the bike.
Exactly. And then came GoPay, their payment system. Absolutely vital in a country with few bank accounts. GoPay lets you add cash to your balance through the riders.
Through the riders, how?
The sources describe them as like walking ATMs. You can literally flag down a Gojek rider on the street, hand them cash, and they top up your GoPay. Or you can cash out your balance from a rider.
Wow. That completely bypasses the whole banking problem.
Totally. And GoPay expanded into paying bills, phone top-ups, everything. The source says because the riders are everywhere, it can actually be more convenient than cash sometimes, easier than finding an ATM.
That kind of innovation, solving real local problems like traffic and banking access, it obviously struck a chord.
Definitely. The sources show Gojek pulling in investment from huge global names, Google, Visa, Tencent, JD.com. There's even talk Amazon might be in there somewhere. That global backing shows Gojek isn't just some small local thing, it's a major innovative player.
So we saw the culture clash at Lazada. What other operational issues did Alibaba run into, according to the sources? Something about the structure after Peng Lei left, with the main Alibaba CEO, Zhang Yang, in charge.
Yeah, the sources highlight this basic problem of distance and lacking what they call customer feel. Zhang Yang, the Alibaba CEO, was based mostly in Hangzhou.
Back in China.
Right, making key decisions for Lazada, headquartered in Singapore, operating across all these diverse SE Asian countries. The source points out that even making monthly 2-day trips for meetings just isn't enough to get that deep, intuitive sense, the harakanku they call it, of the local market. And that's vital in retail, even online.
Especially compared to
Shopee's Forest Lai, based right there in Singapore, able to easily hop over to Indonesia or Vietnam and stay connected to the ground level.
And there's that one anecdote in the sources that just perfectly illustrates this disconnect, right?
Oh yeah, the toilet paper story. It's almost too perfect.
What happened?
They planned this big push to sell cheap Chinese toilet paper on Lazada Vietnam, massive amounts. But apparently local Vietnamese staff probably tried to warn them.
Flat.
But the plan went ahead, and it totally bombed. Why? Because, as the source explains, most people in Vietnam don't really use much toilet paper. Plumbing issues mean they primarily use water, like bidet hoses or showers, for hygiene. It's a cultural thing, too.
So they try to sell tons of toilet paper where people mostly use water.
Yeah. Yep.
A simple product, but the plan completely missed a basic local reality. Failed miserably.
Wow. That single story just nails the importance of that customer feel you mentioned, being close to the market.
Absolutely. Decisions made from thousands of miles away without really listening to the local teams or understanding the context, you end up with costly mistakes like that.
And just when you think the competition couldn't get any fiercer, The sources bring in the next big disruptor, ByteDance, using TikTok for e-commerce in Indonesia.
Yeah, ByteDance entering the ring is a huge deal, mostly because TikTok is just unbelievably popular in Indonesia, massive user base.
Right.
The sources say ByteDance had already messed around with e-commerce on TikTok, like some cross-border tests, shipping things from China, but those didn't work great. Shipping costs made the prices too high.
So what changed? Well, there seems to have been a big shift recently, around April, according to the sources. Now, the focus is squarely on selling Indonesian products to Indonesian consumers, using live commerce inside TikTok.
Local to local. That sounds much more competitive.
Immediately, it makes them a direct and potentially very dangerous threat to both Lazada and Shopee, given TikTok's reach and engagement.
And their experience trying live commerce elsewhere is pushing this.
Seems like it. The sources mention struggles in the US, where live commerce hasn't really caught on yet, and the UK, where regulations are tricky. So it looks like they're doubling down on Southeast Asia, starting with Indonesia, where live commerce is more established and accepted. Their skill with content and algorithms gives them a huge potential edge if they can turn views into sales.
Okay, now this is where the sources draw that really fascinating historical parallel. They say this whole situation in SE Asia now, huge Chinese companies coming in, often buying local firms, then facing fierce local pushback. It looks a lot like China's own e-commerce battle 20 years ago.
It's an amazing echo, isn't it? The sources rewind to when Amazon and eBay, the global giants then, entered China, mostly by buying local players, just like Alibaba did with Lazada.
And who fought them off?
A scrappy local startup called Alibaba.
And that legendary strategy against eBay,
Yeah,
it was about free listings, right?
exactly what the sources recall. Jack Ma made that super bold move, free listings on Taobao, directly challenging eBay, which charged fees.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, and the famous story is eBay's CEO back then, Meg Whitman, kind of dismissing them, supposedly saying there's no free lunch, thinking Alibaba couldn't make money and would fail.
Well, they didn't.
Nope. Alibaba's unconventional strategy, as the sources put it, focused on building the user base and the marketplace first. It worked. They beat eBay in China.
So the sources are pointing out this incredible irony. Alibaba, the company that was the giant killer 20 years ago,
Yeah.
using smart local tactics to beat global players,
Yeah.
is now the established giant in Indonesia trying to compete with or acquire local players like Shopee or Gojek, who might just be playing the giant killer role against them.
That's exactly the parallel the sources lay out so clearly. It just highlights that even with all the money and tech Alibaba and ByteDance have now,
It's not guaranteed.
not at all. The fight in Indonesia shows that local knowledge, real innovation like Gojek's GoPay, smart tactics like Shopee's pricing and marketing it, makes an upset totally plausible. It's a real battle, and the outcome is far from certain.
Wow. What a journey through these sources. We've gone from seeing why Indonesia is such a magnet, demographically and digitally, to understanding China's surprising Galapagos issue overseas and why they need to expand now. Then we dug into Alibaba's rough ride integrating Lazada, the culture clashes, the operational distance, and saw the rise of these incredibly smart local players. Gojek's whole ecosystem, from motorbikes, Shopee's sharp tactics,
And now TikTok jumping in.
right, TikTok shaking things up even more, and finishing with that amazing historical echo, Alibaba's past potentially repeating itself, but this time they're the giant.
Yeah.
The big takeaway from all this material seems to be it's not just about resources. Global tech fights aren't won just by having the deepest pockets or the fanciest tech developed somewhere else.
Exactly. That local understanding, adapting culturally, and that grassroots innovation, solving real local problems, it counts for a massive amount. Sometimes, maybe it counts for more than the HQ strategy.
So after going through all this, you really get a much deeper sense of the incredibly complex forces colliding in one of the world's most exciting digital markets right now.
Absolutely.
And it leaves you wondering, based on these sources, is history going to repeat itself? Could a local Indonesian player actually hold off or even beat these Chinese tech titans like Alibaba beat the U.S. giants years ago?
Or will the sheer scale and learning ability of Alibaba and ByteDance eventually win out as they adapt more?
Yeah, and what does something like GoPay, built completely around cash and riders, tell us about building tech that actually fits the place it's meant for, wherever that might be? Lots to think about.